Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome to another fashion edition. Today we are going to recap all of Meghan Markle's most important outfits of 2025 and get ready. It's a little bit of a train wreck. There are plenty of GMPs, some true travesties. So let's take a look at these outfits, but before we begin, I would like to invite you to click that subscribe button, the like button, and the hype button, but only if you want to. And if you missed it, we did do a 2025 recap going over the biggest, most significant moments of 2025 for the Sussexes and how they are shaping their 2026. So I will link that video for you in case you missed it. And on the second channel, we are going to be covering Catherine, the Princess of Wales's 2025 fashions. So if you don't want to miss that, be sure you subscribe over there. I'll try to link it if I can. Otherwise, you can find it on my channel. There's a link to that channel. All right, enough notes. Let's get into it. One of the worst outfits of 2025 was the Kris Jenner birthday party outfit. And this picture alone just explains why. I mean, it makes her stomach look like it's protruding a lot and very, very straight, very, very unappealing to her figure. Her bust line looks squashed and strange. Her posture is very, very odd in this outfit. It adds a lot of bulk and weight to her waistline. It's doing absolutely nothing for her figure. It's embarrassingly cheap looking. It didn't even fit the theme. It looks too tight, this top does. And it looks to be, the mismatched blacks. The whole thing was horrible. It was embarrassing, this outfit was. And many people speculate that that's why she asked for the photos to be taken down. Also, Meghan doesn't have a super long neck. It's not that she herself is incredibly petite. She's not. We have seen her next to very petite women who are only like 5 foot. Meghan is quite a bit taller than these ladies. She is of average or a little bit above average height. I know a lot of you in the comments are going to be like, no, she's not. She's only like 5'2". She's not that small. She's very thin, but she's not like incredibly petite and short. And so because her neck is not super long, turtlenecks don't really do her any favors. They kind of eat up length that she could benefit from. I have the same problem. I am very petite. I am like barely over 5 feet. And so I can't have a lot of fabric around my neck or it just really eats everything up. And I look like I'm just a face sitting on some shoulders. And that's kind of the effect we have here from this outfit. It was probably the worst of 2025. I put the Balenciaga show white outfit as second worst of 2025 because it's at least a little bit more well made, obviously, than this Kris Jenner party travesty. Like, this is just tragic. It looks cheap as heck. This at least looks like the fabric is quality. The fabric has movement and softness and flow to it. So at least the fabric is nice. But the rest of it looks horrible. This is definitely grandma-chic. Would look amazing on a grandma. It does not look amazing on the Meg. It has a lot of bulk and weight up here, which not only is eating up that neck length that she could benefit from having a little bit more of like a V-neck and whatnot, but it's also adding weight to her shoulder line. The whole thing looks like a frumpy mess, and the way she walked in it, the way she carried the outfit was even worse than the outfit itself. Just not a good match for Meg. Next up, we have this blue weirdness that she put together for the Project Healthy Minds conference or whatever. The popping of the collar, the rolling and shoving up of the sleeves just looks try-hard. The GMPs are way too big. Luckily, they're not pulled up to high heavens here, but they are wrinkly as all get out, and the volume of the trousers are just too big. It makes these pointy-toed heels peeking out look comical. Overall, this was messy, it was frumpy, and it was funny. The worst outfit of the With Love Meghan series is this one. I'm not going to go over every outfit in the series because we did do a couple fashion editions already on those terrible, terrible outfits, but this one was horrible. She did this stupid popped collar thing. It always looks bad. It's wrinkly, it's frumpy, it's huge, it's oversized, and she has it knotted around her waist as if she's a 12-year-old playing dress up. And it just adds bulk and weight to her torso. This makes her look even more boxy, even more top heavy. And she wore it with a slim fit midi skirt. Just exaggerating her upper body here. It's so foolish. One of the dead giveaways that this shirt is way too big is where the seam on the shoulder lands. The seam where the sleeve and the shoulder meet should always be right around the corner of your shoulder. It shouldn't be way in here, indicating the shirt's way too small, and it shouldn't be way down here, indicating the shirt's way too big. We have a way too big shirt here. It looks stupid. Next up, we have this dress that she wore in New York City. They went to a restaurant and claimed that they dined with Ed Sheeran. And embarrassingly, he was like, no, I didn't even know they were there. They happened to be there at the same time as him and released to the press that they ate with him. That's so weird. Such a weird thing to do. But this dress we previously saw, I think it was it the Cut interview or the Variety? I believe it's the Cut interview, which was horrific. It was a terrible photo shoot. But this dress, although it is hemmed to a normal length here, the shoes she's wearing are the shoes from the Balenciaga show. And they are way too big, way too pointed toe and long for her. Since she already has long feet and thin, lanky limbs, she should be avoiding pointy toe no matter how on trend they are. Okay? Trends are not for everyone. And pointed toe shoes are not for Meg because they only elongate her feet further. Look how humongous her feet look in comparison to her body. It's insane. It looks ridiculous. Additionally, this dress itself is just kind of heavy and bulky, especially around the torso. And the way she's holding her body here, her posture is just horrendous. It's making everything worse. Also, this was winter in New York City. It is cold. What is she doing without sleeves? One of the most hilarious outfits of 2025 came early in the year. It was the Time 100 Summit with the biggest GMPs we have ever seen. These giant man pants are so huge. You could make like 3 pairs out of these. These are crazy. The amount of fabric here is just comical. It does not look good. It will only look good on somebody who is extraordinarily tall and slender and model-esque and can really, really pull it off. This amount of volume on somebody of average height is never going to work, particularly if you have a short torso like Meghan, because you just don't have the room in your torso for that high rise of a pant. So as you can see here, the crotch is giving a drop crotch vibe, which is never attractive. It always looks frumpy. The trousers are puddling up on the floor and are just so huge. They look stupid. And then on top of it, she shoved up the sleeves of her blazer, making the whole look just lean into that messy vibe. It's not stylish, it's not professional, it's messy, and it looks amateur. We also have a lack of attention to detail here with like the belt being a little bit askew and things just looking ill-fitting overall, being wrinkly. You'd think she'd pay a little bit closer attention. If she pays attention to somebody shouting out her title before she enters any sort of a room or has any sort of person around her, she should pay a little bit more attention to the way she presents herself. This is an outfit that we've never covered before here on this channel. She took this coat that's too big and belted it over these black trousers. This was when she was doing the photo shoot for Harper's Bazaar. She must have been just really feeling herself and took a chance on her fashion for the day. This looks so bulky and frumpy around the torso. It is adding so much visual weight from the bulky fabric of the coat and the belt on the outside. The only way this approach works is if you have a well-defined waist and you cinch that belt tight enough to where you can still see a defined waist. That is the only way this type of thing works. Her belt is not cinched in tight enough. The coat is too voluminous to pull this off, and she doesn't have a defined waist to begin with, so she doesn't really have the body structure to try this sort of a style. But this was silly. It's really quite funny that she tried to pull this look off. Another travesty that belongs somewhere around the worst of the year is what she wore for the second part of the Bloomberg interview. This oversized, wrinkly white shirt with the messy rolled up sleeves and super skinny white jeans. Again, exaggerating the upper body, making the torso look bigger than it is, and the legs look all the more skinny and lanky in comparison is the opposite of what Meghan needs. Let's break down Meghan's body structure and her style concerns really quickly for anybody who's not familiar, so that this all comes together a little bit for practical applications in our own wardrobe. Meghan Markle's widest point on her body is her shoulder line. I always like to think about styling from this perspective first. Whatever your widest point is naturally going to carry more visual weight than anywhere else on your body. So it's really important to prioritize that when you're getting dressed or picking outfits or styling yourself. Whatever your widest point is going to be visually dominant whether you like it or not. It just is. And so it's important to style with that in mind first to create balance. That doesn't necessarily mean the only option is to add volume in the opposite area. So for Meghan, her widest point is her shoulders. That doesn't mean she has to add volume to her trousers or her lower body via a skirt or dress with a flare. No, that is one way to add balance. Another way is to wear a darker color on top and a lighter color on bottom, or a solid color on top and a pattern on bottom. Also, it doesn't have to be dramatic volume. As we see of the Time 100 outfit, that's way too much volume. These skinny jeans are not enough volume, but a straight leg pant like this is the perfect amount of volume. It doesn't accentuate the thin, lanky limbs, but it does provide a little bit more balance. But it's not so much volume that it looks silly, like she's swimming in someone else's clothing. Her next style concern is that she has a short and boxy torso. So lacking a well-defined waist and having a short torso is a challenge when it comes to styling, of course, but it's not one that can't be handled. She would do better to not draw the attention to the waistline, and if she's going to wear a shirt that's tucked in, to blouse it out a little bit. Like when she wears pencil skirts with the top bloused out a little bit, like pulled up and then, slouched out a tiny bit, that creates the illusion of a waist. I can even sort of pretend to do so here. This, for somebody who doesn't have a very well-defined waist, when you have a little bit of a blousing, it gives the illusion that there's a more well-defined waist underneath this blousing of the shirt. So instead of having things tucked in and pulled down tight like she does here in the Drew Barrymore interview with a big chunky belt and lots of volume around the lower abdomen, instead of that, doing something that's a little bit more balanced and a little bit more subtle just gives a hint that there's more of a waistline under there. That can help bring balance. Also, not having your pants all the way up to your boobs. Pants meet boobs never looks nice. Having mid to low rise trousers and jeans and things of that nature is going to be way more effective on a body type that has a short torso than anything high rise at all. Additionally, avoiding adding bulk to a short torso without a well-defined waist is another important style tip. Adding any degree of visual weight via thick, chunky belts, extra like pleats in trousers or extra weight around the torso area is going to just make that area look bigger and boxier. So you want to avoid those things as well. Her third style concern is long and lanky limbs. In part because she has a shorter torso, her legs look longer in comparison to her torso, but also she has quite long arms. And both her arms and legs are rather skinny or twiggy or lanky, some people say. And so for her, having shirts that don't look oversized is going to help reduce that effect, and to also, quite frankly, avoid the sleeveless stuff all the time, because sleeveless just draws the eye to the arms and it can make them look small in comparison to the body, or make the body look bigger in comparison to the arms, like it did here on the Drew Barrymore show, which this outfit is next worst because these are huge GMPs with a big chunky belt. And as you can see, we have that effect here of these long lanky limbs just looking out of proportionally skinny in comparison to her torso here, which is bulked up with the volume of these trousers. Some style concerns and some body types are more suitable to off the rack and require less tailoring than others. Short torso or long torso, changing the proportions of your leg to torso ratio. You might also need to be more careful with tailoring things than somebody who has a more balanced torso to leg ratio. And Meghan is one of those people who really needs to tailor her clothing to get it to fit well. And this is a perfect example of that. This coat is a perfectly fine coat, and the style of coat could be fine for Meghan. It does have a large lapel, but these vertical buttons across the front are going to help increase her vertical line and draw the eye away from a heavy collar. So it's not going to give the effect of adding too much bulk to her shoulder line, which she wants to avoid, because it has balance with those vertical buttons. But the fatal mistake here was that she didn't hem this coat properly. It looks too long still. Now, of course, coats can be this long, yes, but for Meghan, it ends up looking a little bit too long, a little bit silly, like she's wearing someone else's coat that's too big. And part of this is in the way Meghan wears things. She comes across self-conscious, especially in her clothing. And that impression is only worsened by the way she's constantly fiddling with her clothing by shoving up her sleeves and pulling on things all the time and touching her hair all the time. That is read as a sign of insecurity. Whether it is coming from a place of insecurity or not doesn't really matter. Fidgeting and fiddling with your clothing and your hair and your face and your body all the time comes across as insecure. And so it's always going to make your outfits look worse. But here, this coat just looks too long. If it was hemmed maybe just an inch or two shorter, it would look really nice. Let's move on to the night that she and Harry took a humanitarian award for Parents Network, only to announce that they have closed Parents Network. Ha, gotta love that. This outfit was inappropriate for the occasion, but the suit jacket itself is tailored nicely to her. As you can see here, it's riding up a little bit. It's bunching a little bit in this particular photograph, which is unfortunate, but it does taper in at the waist, and it's not too long, but it's also not too short. So it actually was pretty balancing for her figure. I only wish that the trousers weren't as tight throughout the thigh and knee because they're giving too much of a flare, looking a little dated. Whereas if they were just more straight leg and, had a slight flare, they would have come across a lot better and offered better balance for her torso, because her knee and thigh area still looks too skinny for the blazer, for the upper body here, and that's only because they're a little too tight around that area. And also, as I said, the flare just isn't really in right now, so it's not quite working. But the volume around the bottom of these trousers is correct for Meghan. That's better than the huge wide leg trousers and GMPs that she likes to wear. I did like the ponytail approach better than the just down and heavy that she likes to do a lot of the time, because it comes across a little bit cleaner. The worst part about it was that she lacked a camisole or undershirt of some kind. It would have looked a lot better and a lot more professional, a lot more appropriate with some sort of an undershirt. Next, we have the black dress from the Balenciaga Paris Fashion Week debacle. I liked this one a little bit better than the white one. Well, I liked it a lot better than the white one because it's hemmed properly, it's not too long. The asymmetry actually helps to minimize the appearance of a wide shoulder line, so it actually creates a little bit of balance, even though we have this one lanky arm sticking out here, drawing the eye. The rest of it has nice draping and asymmetry that can be quite flattering for Meghan's body type. Next, we have the oversized yellow shirt and pleated skirt that she wore for the Bloomberg interview. I feel like these sandals were a poor choice. They don't really vibe with this yellow. They kind of are clashing a little bit. Overall, I don't love this outfit, but I also think it's a little bit better than some of the other things that we have just covered. The sweater is too big. It's meant to be oversized, but it just doesn't look great with this skirt. I think that this skirt would have looked nice with a slightly more just regular, well-fitted sweater, knit on top, rather than this oversized one that just kind of made the whole look a little too casual and frumpy, like just not well fitted and not well thought out. It almost looked too casual the way that she wore it. Next, we have this dress, which she actually has in at least two other colors. Here's this white one and this blue one that she wore. And I think she has it in a pinstripe version that she wore on the Netflix show as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are the same. Now, in the blue one, she has it unbuttoned too far. That just looks weird. Weird and try hard, like attention thirsty. I don't know. It's strange. I think I like it a little better buttoned up in the white here. But the fact that this is more of a halter cut where it comes into the collar and exposes more shoulder really draws the eye to the shoulder line here, which is her widest point, which you normally would not want to do. But the skirt has enough volume that it actually balances her shoulder line here. It doesn't make it look like her shoulders are exaggeratedly large compared to the rest of her body. It adds that balance because it's the right amount of volume throughout the skirt. However, her big mistake on this dress in all the colors was the way that she tied the bow across the front. She would have done better to tie the bow in the back in a less bulky fashion so that there was just a band across the front, or skip the belt altogether to create a more streamlined look from the front to not draw the eye to the waistline and to not add any bulk to the waistline. Because as you can see here, this belt is just making her torso look bigger and it draws your eye right to the belt. You end up resting on the belt. You try to look at the whole thing and no, you just come right back to the belt because it's bulk. And it's going in different directions from the buttons. It's chopping up the vertical line. So the belt ruined it. But otherwise it could have been okay. It is a tiny bit voluminous for her lanky limbs, but we can't solve every single fashion concern with every single outfit. Sometimes there's going to be one or two things that sneak by, and that's okay. If you're balancing the rest, it's going to work out better than if you're balancing none of it. Additionally here, this has a collar and strong buttons here. They're a little bit chunkier and bigger. She might have had more success doing a ponytail or a half up look. In fact, a half up would have been really, really cute with this dress. But having the hair down plus the collar just adds a little bit more bulk around the neck area and the neckline and shoulders than would be ideal. Next, we have just an okay outfit. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's certainly not the best. She's wearing this gray blazer that has a really heavy and chunky lapel that's a little bit much for Meghan. But the black outfit underneath is just very plain. The wide leg trousers aren't extraordinarily wide legs, so they're not overwhelming in an extreme manner. And because it's a monochrome look underneath the blazer, it's streamlining and it doesn't draw the eye to the waistline. So those things are all positives here. She also didn't bunch up the sleeves in a ridiculous manner. For once. Early in the year, she went to see a show on Broadway or something like that, and she wore this black button down that looks a little too tight and is got the messy rolled up sleeves. Hate that, always will, never going to be okay with that. But it's a houndstooth pencil skirt. This is a decent silhouette for Meghan, and she achieved one of those tips that I was just talking about. A pattern on the bottom and a darker solid color on top is going to add balance to that first most important style concern of having a broad shoulder line. Her widest point is balanced perfectly in this outfit, and that is why it got up here to closer to the good outfits, because the pattern draws the eye and adds visual weight. The darker solid color blends a little bit, doesn't draw the eye, and creates more visual balance between her shoulder line and her torso and her lower body. Yes, the skirt's up a little high. Yes, the shirt is not fitting perfectly. And overall, the look isn't amazing, but it is a lot more balancing than the rest. So because of that, it's a great example of the power of using pattern paired with a solid or a dark color, wherever your widest point is, to create balance in your silhouette. So if Meghan was more pear-shaped, then she would want to do a plain black midi skirt with a patterned top, for example. Next up was one of her best of the year, and that's what she wore to the Fortune Summit. I like the styling of this with the hair done in a more clean and sleek manner without being yanked back into a tight ponytail. I like the softness of the shirt fabric that doesn't draw the eye to the shoulder so much, but rather the sleeves a little bit lower towards the cuff, where the cuff is still reining in and controlling the volume. It prevented her from rolling up her sleeves in a messy manner. And the simple pencil skirt. It created a streamlined and elongating silhouette for her. The softness of the fabric helped to balance her more boxy frame. And overall, this outfit was quite nice. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a blousing to that shirt at the waistband of the skirt, which helps give the illusion that she has a more well-defined waist under there. And there's a slight V-neck to this collar, which helps to elongate her neckline a little bit. So overall, this was really nice. There is a few problems though. The shirt is not quite fitting nicely across her bust and shoulder line. As you can see, it doesn't fit that area perfectly, but overall, this was a lot better than some of the previous options we've seen. Leave it in the comments what you thought was the worst tragedy train wreck of the year when it came to Meghan's outfits and which one you liked the best. Thank you for joining me for today's fashion edition. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye. Lots of like leaning into, not in any sort of a negative way, but, you know, grandma fashions. No offense to the grandmas. These fashions would look excellent on them. Women of a mature age would suit these outfits beautifully, wonderfully. But the Meg, I don't know. She's kind of aging herself, taking her in the opposite category that she thinks she's going. She thinks that she's appealing to a young audience, and she's not at all.